Welcome to the post-debacle edition of Sharing Sox. I'm Southside Sox duty geezer Leigh Allan. With me, my son, and for the last time for a while, next room correspondent Will, the West Coast correspondent again next week when he goes back home to Los Angeles. But he's still got his show going here. Shameless plug, Campaigns Inc. at Timeline Theater in Chicago. I normally wear a White Sox shirt of some kind. That I am wearing my birthday present Junkyard Dog from Sandlot shirt because we watched some Sandlot baseball yesterday. We're recording this on Friday after the Houston series before the trip to Cleveland. And while the Houston series at 2-2, as far as I'm concerned, it's just fine. I thought that was an excellent outcome. The 25-run debacle on a 21-run, 25-hit debacle on Thursday was wow.
Yeah, I actually think you calling that Sandlot baseball is an insult to Benny the Jet Rodriguez and what he did with his ball club, because they never gave up 21.
Well, you about the baseball, but which would have been a good thing for the White Sox to do on Thursday afternoon. I happened to be reporting on that game, so I had to watch the entire thing and then write about it afterwards, which was very, very painful.
At least it was only 4 hours long.
And it wasn't even that. I think it was 3:57.
Oh, well, that's
and it got to the point where Houston was up 10 runs or so at some point, and their pitchers were walking our guys. I'm going, don't walk our guys, you idiots. Don't walk them. You're dragging this thing out. And then our guys, they walk, I think 9 White Sox. One of them managed to score. Yeah. No, throw strikes right down the middle. And our guys, you throw it right down the middle. Eventually they'll hit it out. Get this over with.
21 runs, which I believe you mentioned to me yesterday is the most anyone has ever scored against them at the Gurf at guaranteed rate.
Yeah.
Wow. What a treat. And did Gavin Sheets go 5 for 5, or was he just 4 for 5?
4 for 4. He had 4 hits.
Oh, okay.
This is his 4th 4-hit game. Yoan Moncada looked good. He had not just a 3-run homer, but hit the ball hard. All of it in vain. But what happened with the White Sox hitting was it didn't come until, and Garcia is not a great pitcher. Luis Garcia is throwing for Houston. But the 4th inning that they had was like a rain delay. It went for what seemed like 5.5 days. And when he came out after that, he did not have what he had before. And I think it really was like a rain delay. I think he was just, and he didn't really have that feeling of tension anymore because it was 10-0 at that point. Oh, well, you blow that one out. One thing it's going to do for the Pythagorean scores, because, yes, it was a 2-2 series, but the White Sox were outscored by 14 runs. So the Pythagorean of what your record should be is going to go down. And because their record will be better than what it should be, because they were already negative on run differential, it makes they must have a really good manager if they overcame this run differential to have a winning record. Yikes. The saddest thing of the whole thing was that Josh Harrison's ERA doubled to 18.
I know, poor guy.
I mean, he was, it was sad because he came out there. I mean, his fastball was firing up to 57 on occasion. And he got a strikeout.
I don't want to, wish ill will on anything, but I'm really concerned his Cy Young chances are shot.
It could be. Well, I don't think he was going to have enough innings anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and it can be tough for a reliever, especially when you've only thrown 3 innings or 4 innings, whatever he's even
I don't think it vests his contract for next year on innings pitched.
That is too bad. So we split these 2. We split these 4, 2 each. First 2 games, we actually saw some interesting life from the White Sox.
Yes. Late victories will do that for you.
Yeah, and a lot from Yoan Moncada, who gets a lot of flack for maybe seeming like he's uninterested in playing the game. He certainly seemed to be excited during those key moments of the first two games of the series. The next game was maybe one of the most boring games ever played in the history of baseball. That was the 3-2 loss. Uh, Not interesting. And then, of course, a 21-5 shellacking to end the series. Do you view this as a good series outcome, really? Or do you view it as
No,
how did we get
I
away
think
with
I view it as
two?
an okay series outcome. You split the 4 games. That really, with Houston, that's not bad.
Yeah.
But when you do it, when it ends on a humiliating note, uh, that is bad. And of course, the really dangerous part of that is how bad Lucas Giolito looked.
Yeah. I mean, Lucas Giolito is absolutely not the pitcher that he was over the last couple years. It's so bizarre.
It's that commercial. They're going to have to bring it back.
They are.
2018, he was the worst pitcher in baseball. They said to update the year.
Well, no, what you have to do is you have to say, 2018, he was the worst pitcher in baseball. 2020, 2021, he was pretty good. 2022, he was the worst pitcher in baseball. So 2023,
This dude is an all-star.
yeah. Uh, the Giolito thing is obviously a huge issue moving forward for the White Sox. What do you do?
No, because it's particularly devastating with Lucas, both because he's a favorite of mine, but in general, he's smart. So he's not a pitcher who can't figure things out. He's really smart. And of course, he's got Ethan Katz, who has coached him since high school and knows presumably every little possible thing that can go wrong with Lucas Giolito. And between the two of them, they are not coming up with anything. He had some okay games the last 3 games, but they weren't great. Took him 100 pitches to go 5 innings. That's not great.
We saw a
Excuse me.
couple flashes of that changeup looking really good early on in the game yesterday. I'm
Yeah,
sorry
and it
about that.
disappeared.
And then just absolutely flatlined. And those changeups really did look like old Lucas Giolito changeups. They
To
were really
right-handers.
sharp. They to right-handers. They came out of his hand looking exactly how they should look. They moved exactly how they should move. They hit a spot in the strike zone, mind you, White Sox pitchers. It is okay to do if you do it well. You can throw the ball in the strike zone. And then just nothing. And did you see anything that would cause that drastic
There was
change?
if if it occurred, they didn't show it on TV. You didn't see where he stepped wrong and
Yeah.
maybe his ankle got sore or um, he was falling off the mound to one side or the other. None of that was seemed to be occurring. Of course, he's been bad pretty much the entire season. And I think we go back to he bulked up. Did that hurt him? Did that keep him from being as loose as he had been in the past? Was that a mistake? I know he's trying to get stronger to go longer and that kind of stuff, but there's a lot of question in baseball of people over bulking, mostly with hamstrings with position players.
But also, I mean, if you're a pitcher and you found this fluid motion, the last thing you should do is bulk up in a way that prevents your body from continuing that same motion. And I think it probably is a huge factor. Lucas looks like he put on a ton of muscle, but a ton of muscle does not a great pitcher make. I mean, look at McKenzie in Cleveland. That dude
we're going to
weighs
look at him on
maybe
tonight,
31 pounds.
Friday
Yeah,
night.
we'll see him tonight. And he's the extreme argument that muscle is not what you need here. Chris Sale being another example. Chris Sale is long and stringy. Lucas is what? He's 6'4", 6'5", something like that. He's very tall. The answer for him is not going to be muscle. He's got the
Well,
length.
it's muscle. And it's not. They're what your fast
It's
twang and
not
your slow
bulk.
twang
Yeah, yeah.
muscles. It's a different kind of muscle. We tennis players used to because we were not bulked up like the football players. We used to say, "Well, it's tennis muscle." I don't know that
Right,
I ever
yeah.
had any muscle at all, but we called it tennis muscle.
Tennis muscle did not get popular until Rafael Nadal.
Well, and the Williams sisters.
True, true.
But even then, well, we get into tennis. Roger Federer does not look like a strong guy, but he's an
No.
incredibly strong guy because it's that type of muscle. Anyhow, onto the game. The fact that Vince Velasquez gave up 5 runs in a couple of innings, I think is immaterial. I don't think the White Sox were ever planning to count on Velasquez as anything but mop up.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Other than the period back there when we didn't have any starters, but
I
now
am
the starters are
surprised
back.
he was as bad as he was, but I'm also not surprised. Like I still have this hope in my head for some reason that Vince Velasquez is going to figure it out. And we've seen him sort of figure it out a couple times, but yeah, he is just there. I feel like half of our team right now is just there to eat innings to save time until we can really figure this
Well, and
out. But it's August 19th.
Jose Ruiz had been pretty good, but they really lashed into him.
Yeah.
At least Velasquez took 3 innings to give up 5 runs, so they only took 2. And thank goodness Josh came along to hold it to 4 in the 9th inning. There is something on that hitting is contagious thing that once they've got out and everybody's pounding the ball and feeling really good about themselves, every player on Houston had a hit by the time Giolito left, which was with no outs in the 4th inning. 3 batters in, and every starter scored a run. I mean, well, anyhow, that game's over. The Sox remain 2.5 games behind Cleveland, with 3 games in Cleveland coming up, so you can recover. And they're going to do it with a new shortstop. Elvis has entered the building.
Let's take our break and then we'll come back. We'll talk about our new shortstop, and we'll talk about this upcoming Cleveland series and what we might be able to expect from that. Hopefully, it's less than 21 runs total over 3 games. But after last night, we could be cruising for a bruising because that was crazy. But we'll call it an anomaly, and we will be right back here on Sharing Sox. Welcome back to Sharing Sox. We dissected that Houston series moments ago, which we think was kind of fine, kind of okay, whatever. You took 2 out of 4 against Houston.
And big comebacks are nice.
Comebacks
it's not
are
nice to wait until the 8th inning to score, but if you do it effectively, it's nice.
It certainly felt like in the first 2 games we had gotten something going. That even if we lost the next 2, it was going to be a series victory in our minds and hearts. The last game obviously changed that for us by giving up the 3 touchdowns with successful extra point conversions. But new shortstop, as you just said, Elvis has entered the building.
Elvis Andrus is a long way from his all-star days. Those were 9 or 10 years ago. And of course, was a phenom as a rookie. In his first few years, he was looked at as the shortstop of the future for baseball. That has slowed down, and he's become maybe an above-average shortstop. Defensively, he's actually got a negative 0.1 D-WAR, according to Baseball Reference this year, which is kind of a wash right there. He has overall, though, a 1.2 WAR for 100 games. So that's kind of right at an average major league starter. He's hitting .237, has some homers. An average major league starter is what we need at shortstop until or if Tim Anderson comes back, because we don't have that. The guys who filled in weren't terrible defensively. They were pretty terrible offensively. Sosa hit that big home run his first time, and then I think that was it. He was hitting about 110.
Yeah.
And in fairness to Romy Gonzalez, he only had, I think, 8 at bats and had 1 hit, so that wasn't enough to call it a failure.
We kind of said yesterday that neither of those guys are really meant to be playing Major League Baseball, and I do think
At this
Elvis
point,
Andrus.
Sosa maybe eventually.
Sure. And I'm not ruling out anyone. I mean, Tanner Banks was kind of in the show for a while after 10 years in the minors. Um, but I think Andrews is a major upgrade as a placeholder. I don't think Elvis Andrus is a guy that, we're going to be looking to continue to work with after this season necessarily. But I think it's a solid upgrade. He's certainly at least a solid defensive player still, was once elite.
Terrific.
And is now still, I would say, better than the league average fielding. He as you said is hitting about 235, 237 this season, which puts him obviously below Tim in terms of average, but ahead of any other middle infielder we could throw out there.
I'm not ahead of Josh.
Well, and Josh,
but he can't play shortstop.
Exactly, shortstop, I should say, because Josh is up in the 240s, I think, at this point. What about power? Do you know if
he had 8 homers? He had 120 home run season just 3 or 4 years ago. He had 8 homers this year, so there's a little bit there. I mean, for the White Sox, 8 homers is be a big deal.
And which is something I wanted to get to as we head to Cleveland, which is one of 3 teams that has fewer home runs than the White Sox, but are ahead of us in the division. We are, I think, 26th or 27th in the league in home runs. It is 2022. We are almost 100 home runs behind the Yankees. And I realize the Yankees are an elite power team, but 100 home runs behind the Yankees.
When you talk the comparison with Cleveland, I think the big difference, of course, they have probably more pitching depth than we do, especially bullpen depth, but it's speed. We've got 3 guys who run really well. Tim, who's injured half the time, Adam Engel, who's not allowed to play,
and injured the other half,
and is injured on occasion. And who am I leaving out?
Luis,
of course, was also injured a fair amount of the time. So Luis is the fastest of them all. They have just speed all over the place. Even their one real power hitter, Jose Ramirez, he's fast. I mean, he looks like the Pillsbury Doughboy, but he moves.
He does.
They're not only fast, they take the extra base. They're thinking on the bases. They have a more intelligent manager, and that makes a difference in how you go about the game.
Significantly, yeah.
So they are built as a speed team. The White Sox are built as a power team, but not getting that power.
Yeah, we're at 102 home runs on August 19th. Our home run leader, which, by the way, this is the same from last week when this was briefly mentioned on the podcast, is still Jose Abreu, still at 14 home runs. Those power numbers are absolutely pathetic. And you know me, I'm like you. I love singles, doubles, and triples. I love manufacturing runs, but this is 2022, and to have 102 home runs on August 19th, I would say means you absolutely can't win your division, but obviously Cleveland is ahead of us with even fewer home runs. But what it does mean is you've got no chance. I mean, you've got no chance in the postseason.
You couldn't blame Major League Baseball if they ruled that nobody from this division is not going to make the playoffs. Pitching matchups. Lance Lynn, who has looked very good his last time out, but is finally pitching against a team that is pretty smart and able to hit. Although Cleveland's not a great hitting team at all. They're mostly pitching and speed and defense. Yeah. Great defensive team. But Tristan McKenzie against Lance Lynn. McKenzie can be very, very good or very, very bad. It can go either way. You could find him going 6 innings of 1-hit ball or 3 innings of 10-run ball.
McKenzie,
he's a guy it can get into his head, like the old Dylan Cease before this year. Something goes wrong, bad call, bad bounce, makes a bad pitch, and they fall apart. They've been quick.
I think McKenzie is actually a potential great pitcher. He's still he's still young. He's still very hot and cold. But when he's on, it's trouble. And when he's off, it's meat and potatoes. So you just never know which McKenzie you're going to get. And hopefully we get some meat and potatoes tonight.
Saturday, it is Bieber versus Cueto, and I looked it up. Unfortunately, it's Shane Bieber. I was hoping Justin, but
Whew,
apparently they
that's
DFA'd him.
honestly, that to me is the most exciting possible matchup right now because Cueto is just doing this unbelievable comeback that I don't understand how he's as good as he is. Uh, it's a completely different style of pitching from anyone else on the team. He's so fun to watch. He goes out there with the complete intention of pitching all 9 innings every day. That is so cool and so fun to watch for me. I love that. It's the complete opposite of the mentality you see from our other starters. When Cueto goes out, you see in his eyes, he's like, I'm going to pitch this whole game. And then he tries to get there. He falls short sometimes, and then we take him out in the eighth or even the seventh. But he is just so exciting to watch.
And I really like that he called out the team last week.
Absolutely.
That he talked about the lack of life, and they seem to react to that somewhat as they have not reacted to other things, including other people calling him out during the season. Yeah. Oh, and that incidentally, and Andrus is supposed to be a really good clubhouse spirit guy. So we'll see how that.
Well, let's hope so. Yeah. But I did love Cueto calling them out. Cueto is a guy who has been on teams that were maybe not even expected to be as good as they were, but because they had that fire, that energy, they won World Series. So I'm a huge Johnny Cueto guy right now. I love the matchup with Shane Bieber. Bieber, of course, is the better pitcher overall. He is one of the best in the game. But on any given day, Johnny Cueto can rise to his level of competition. I think that matchup on Saturday could be really, really fun. I think it could be a great close game, and I think it could be 2 hours and 25 minutes long, which would be
just a nice thing.
Incredible compared to last night's 4-hour slaughter.
The Houston pitcher last night, Luis Garcia, he had a little Johnny Cueto, not the skill of Johnny Cueto, but God, he jumped all over the mound. He looked like he'd been invaded by a swarm of bees every time he threw a pitch.
He does. His hat sits a little too low on his head. He needs to get more going on so we can get that just barely staying on Johnny Cueto look that I love. That he is still repping that. But what do we got on Sunday?
Sunday, certainly the White Sox will go in severe favorites because Dylan Cease will be throwing for us, Aaron Civale for them, and Civale has been pretty much a train wreck this year. Not again, like most starting pitchers, he can have a day when he's on, but he hasn't been on very much.
Yeah, I mean that I think should be the one that is the White Sox to take. I know this is such an unpopular opinion. I fight with the guys on the text thread constantly. I still am just not there with Dylan Cease. I think and you know me, when Dylan Cease was bad, I was pumping up Dylan Cease.
When I was saying bad things about Dylan Cease, you were the one roaring to his defense.
And I'm not here to say bad things about him. He's got incredible stuff. He's got as good a stuff as anyone in baseball. He leads the major leagues in walks. I mean, come on. You're leading the majors in walks, and we're supposed to consider you an absolutely elite pitcher. I am of the school still that Dylan Cease is not a great pitcher. He is now an elite thrower and a good pitcher, but he has not reached great pitcher status. My reason for that, which I'm always griping about on here.
Efficiency.
I mean, yes, my friends immediately came back and said, well, he throws 6 innings 15 times. Congratulations. 6 innings. Woohoo. I'm so impressed. I don't even remember those. To me, he's always pitching 5. He's or 4 2/3 on a bad day. His pitch count problems are absolutely horrific. They're terrible. The number of 3-2 counts or 3-1 that we see from him, the number of walks, it's frustrating to watch him.
And what's really frustrating about that aspect on it is it's not necessary. Nobody can hit him.
That's
Nobody
the thing.
can hit him.
That's why I
Throw
say
the ball
he's
in
a
the strike
great
zone.
thrower and he's not a great pitcher yet, because a great pitcher would go after every batter with the stuff that he has. He has elite stuff. His breaking balls, his fastball, they are top notch. They're top tier.
Slider may be the best pitch in baseball this year.
It absolutely could be. Why are you throwing so many pitches so far out of the strike zone? Go at these guys. Let them make contact. Make our terrible defense, I know, play defense. That could be part of the problem. When a pitcher has a really bad defense, they want to strike everyone out, and that could be what we're dealing with there. As we saw from Andrew Vaughn dropping that ball in right field, and Dylan Cease kind of having an emotional slide down after that. I just don't know what they can do to get these starters other than Cueto to throw the ball in or near the strike zone. Why do we have to go 3-2 on so many batters? It is infuriating. It's frustrating. It's destroying the game and the fun of the game. I mean, we talk about, oh, let's get this team amped. Let's see some fire. Well, when they have to sit through 170 pitches from their pitching staff alone, that's boring. It's boring. And especially if that's happening and you're getting 6 walks and 12 strikeouts or whatever, that's boring. And I love seeing the White Sox win, but I still, with these starting pitchers, it's it feels like work watching the White Sox right now. I want to see Dylan Cease come out there on Sunday and go straight at every single batter in that lineup. And if you get hit, you get hit. If you get hit too much, then pull off and go back to your old thing. But attack these guys. Throw the ball in the zone, on the corners. He paints the corners, but he paints them 2 inches off. So it's a very wide brush he's got there. And that's what gets us these 3-2 counts. Go at them. Go right at the edge of that plate, or even go over the middle of it. Like, make these guys hit you. You have the best pitch in baseball. Use it to your advantage. Show us what you've got. Because right now, Dylan Cease, I'm not sold that he is going to be a great pitcher. I would not give him the Cy Young this year at all. I mean, it's people who are saying, oh, he should win the Cy Young after he wasn't even an all-star. No. We have to see this guy learn how to command the baseball before he is at that level. Your silence tells me you agree wholeheartedly.
Well, his results, and again, it comes to his results while he's on the mound are incredible. I mean, was it 13 games in a row with no more than 1 earned run? But he's not on the mound that
exactly.
long. Time-wise, he is, because he takes forever. But that deep into the game. And yes, if we day after day have an elite bullpen, yeah, that'll work. And actually it works in the playoffs, because in the playoffs nobody gets to pitch more than 6 innings anyway, if that. But you got to get to the playoffs, and you got to not wear out your bullpen when the other starters, other than Cueto, aren't going deep. So they have to be used extensively. So Yeah, I mean, that's his problem. There is greatness there. It is not quite greatness because of the pitch counts.
Yeah, it has not been harnessed. But I do actually think he is going to be a great pitcher. He's still just figuring it out. And to be this good with this good of stuff at his age, I mean, I think he's going to be as great as people think he can be and as great as we want him to be. That is all the time we have for today. Do you have any final thoughts before we head out?
Uh, no, it's hard. It's hard to think after
Yeah.
this game.
Well,
In
we
my
have
mind, because I had to watch the entire game carefully, my mind is just
yeah. Well, we have these 3 games against Cleveland. Next week on the podcast, I think we're going to know a lot more of what this
Yeah. I
final.
mean, sweep Cleveland, and you're probably in first place. I didn't look up who Minnesota's playing this weekend. Cleveland, of course, just split a 4-game series with Detroit, which is pretty damn awful.
Yeah.
But they had to do what the Sox did. They scored 6 runs in the 8th, in the 4th game to win 8-4. But that does put them with momentum upward, whereas the Sox have momentum backward. Each team has had time off. I don't know how much that counts in baseball when you're moving on to another opponent, but it's a little something.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will hopefully be back reporting on the first place White Sox next week. The number of times I've said that this year, and we have not been able to do it, is getting into the comical range. But hopefully, we will be on here talking about the first place White Sox next week. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you next time on Sharing Sox.